In the introductory videos to musical intervals, whose links are given in the description of this video, the different types of intervals were studied. In this video, we will consider in more detail the semitone intervals. In studying the generation of musical notes, we generate the untempered ascending chromatic scale shown on the screen. Note that in this scale there are 12 semitones, but that these semitones are not all of the same size, measured as the ratio between the frequency of the highest note and the frequency of the lowest note, indicated in the gray row, and which assumes the values 1.0535 and 1.0679. There are two types of semitones: diatonic semitones, which correspond to two notes with different names, identified by the abbreviation DST, and chromatic semitones, which correspond to notes with the same name, unaltered and altered, identified by the abbreviation CST. All the melodies presented in this channel correspond to the system of composition called tonal, in which a bass note, the tonic, and other notes associated with it are taken to generate the melody and its harmonization. Next, we mark with a rectangle on the graph of the chromatic scale the notes of the major scale, which are the most used for the composition of melodies in the key of C major. This configuration, tone, tone, semitone of maximum extension, tone, 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 semitone of maximum extension, defines and is unique to major scales. Note that the only notes with the same name are the first note and its octave, so these scales are called diatonic. Next, we show the representation on the staff for the first 5 of these major scales. Note the use of sharp accidentals and flat accidentals. In a later video, we will justify the need to use these two types of accidentals. For now, we will present the details of the generation of the C-sharp major scale and the D-flat major scale to contrast both scales. Note that in both scales, in the ascending direction, the configuration tone, tone, semitone of maximum extension, tone, 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 semitone of maximum extension, found in the C major scale, is maintained, but that the naming of these intervals varies. Note also that in the first scale, the C-sharp major scale, in the ascending interval from the note F4 to the note G4, there is first a longer chromatic semitone, and then a shorter diatonic semitone, and that in the scale of D-flat, in the descending interval from the note G4 to the note F4, there is first a shorter chromatic semitone, and then a longer diatonic semitone. In this channel, the ukulele and the Venezuelan cuatro are used to present the melodies. Both are tempered instruments, therefore tempered scales are used in the performance of these melodies. The chromatic tempered scale was studied in the video Chromatic Tempered Scale, whose link is given in the description. Next is a comparison, taken from that video, of this scale with the untempered scale for the octave extending from the note C4 to the note C5. Note that the size of the semitones in the tempered scale is constant, with a ratio between the frequency of its notes of 1.059463, an intermediate value between the frequency ratios for the semitones of longer and shorter size in the untempered scale. In the video we are referring to, an experiment was performed in which it was observed that the difference in the sounds of the notes in both scales is practically imperceptible. The conclusion is that for the purposes of our channel the difference in the size of semitones is irrelevant, so from now on in this channel we will refer to semitones without reference to their size. However, this aspect has been considered in this video to give a more complete idea of how Western music has been structured, knowledge that may be useful if you are interested in non-tempered instruments. In any case, although it has not been pointed out in the figure, the distinction between diatonic semitones and chromatic semitones is maintained. Next, we repeat the first 5 major scales on the staff, enclosing the semitones in boxes. In this video, we have limited ourselves to the study of the occurrence of semitones in the major scales generated by the Pythagorean procedure used in this channel to determine the musical notes. We will study the scales in more detail in later videos. Thanks for watching this video. What is studied in it will be useful to understand the concepts of tension and resolution in musical pieces.